Maybe you have seen it already. My book Hands-on Mobile App Testing is available in the second edition. If you'd like to know more about the book, follow this link. If you have any kind of questions to the book, let me know. And if you'd like to support me, get the book and learn everything about mobile testing. Hi, and welcome back to my YouTube channel Software Testing. My name is Knott and I'm happy that you're here today. In today's video, I would like to talk about my four biggest fails in software testing, my personal ones, the ones that I've made over the course of the last years. So let's get right into them. Number one. What was one of the four mistakes that I can remember that I did? Well, basically, when I started my software testing career in 2008, I wasn't really involved or searching for online communities like Ministry of Testing, the Elder testing communities, or other communities out there. I was just blindly doing my work as a software test engineer back then, and was not looking for blogs or any kinds of resources except books to get into software testing. And now looking back, more than 15 years or 14 years back, that was a big mistake, because with the first time I got in contact with the testing community was in 2011. When I first joined the Agile testing days in Germany, for me it was a great eye-opener. It was a relief. Finally, I met a nice community. I met people, like-minded people, and I could finally exchange on topics that I was into. So that was one of the biggest mistakes, that I haven't started earlier. Even though you have to keep in mind that in 2008, at least from my point of view and from my understanding, there were not too many communities or testing communities out there. It was rather some blogs and books that you can consume and that you can exchange on. So that was my first mistake that I would like to talk and share with you today. Second one is that when I was a junior software test engineer, I was working in an Agile team and I was writing lots of test cases. Yes, right, you heard it. I wrote many test cases. So exact steps like, okay, enter this, do this, click here, do this, check the API here and change it here and there. And it took me a lot of time to write this, right? I mean, we all know that test cases are not really helpful for performing testing activities. So, and then after a certain, let's say weeks, month, I noticed and also got the feedback from the team that I was the bottleneck. You maybe scream now, because software tester should never be the bottleneck, because the whole team should support the testing activities. But well, back then in 2009, 2010, I was a junior, I was a greenhorn. I didn't know anything about whole team quality approach. I didn't know anything about that other people should also support the testing activities. So that was for me an eye-opener as well, when I got the feedback in the retrospective that I would be the bottleneck, and I stopped writing too many test cases. I just exchanged with other people on the testing community, and I really fast find out that making notes and writing down ideas or creating mind maps using heuristics, that is much more beneficial for me and for my work back then. This helped me, this helped the team, and it was a big learning for me. But yeah, it was a fail, right? But I'm happy to talk about it now. What's the third mistake that I would like to talk about is, it was also in my early years as a software test engineer, and I was reusing test data. It's hard to imagine, but we had a staging system back then, and I created my test data, the data that I needed for my testing activities. It took me quite some time. We all know who's working with test data. This takes time, creating them, storing them somehow, and changing it in a way you want to have it for your testing tasks. But I was another greenhorn, or the same greenhorn back then, and I was just reusing the test data all over again for every test run, for every test cycle. And then at some point I found out why is the software not in the state or not in the exact behavior that it should be? And then I started to think about it, what was wrong? What is the issue back there, basically? And then I just found out that the test data has changed, and it was completely out of my sight back then that reusing the test data wasn't a good idea. I thought it's a good idea to reuse it because you save time. But I mean, the laziness then taught me something else, and it also was a good learning for me, because now I know that test data is a complicated and a challenging task, depending on the tech stack, depending on the systems that you are testing, and this can be like a full-time job, for example. So this was the third biggest fail that I would like to talk about today. And what was the last one? Yeah, well, it's also like it was around about 2011, 2012 when I started working in mobile. I started testing the first applications, and I first started to investigate on test automation. And for those of you who were in the early stages of Android and iOS testing in 2010, 2011, 2012, there weren't too many automation tools available, and I was just like using Google and typing in like, hey, test automation tool mobile, and I just found like the very first tool, and I just used it. I just set it up, it was working. But looking back now, I was kind of lucky, because the tool that popped up was quite helpful back then. It was the Keep It Functional for iOS and Robotium for Android, and they were good. They were good tools. They were mature enough back then to actually to support my testing activities. But now looking back, I was lucky, as I said. But on the other side, I just started too fast with implementing this tool, right? I didn't ask the question like, what kind of problem do I want to solve with a test automation tool? What should be the requirements, and so forth and so forth. So whenever you would like to search for a test automation tool or any kind of tool, I highly recommend you to make a list of things that the tool should cover, or the things that the tool has to cover or must fulfill, depending on your tech stack, and also depending on your needs. And then start looking for a test automation tool that fits your need. And you might be surprised, because it might not be the tool that is the best ranked tool on Google or any other search engine, or it doesn't need to be the tool that the community is recommending, for example. So that was also learning for me, that you should really take notes or make some notes on the requirements, think about it, and then start to evaluating the tool that you really want. And then maybe also implement maybe a few test cases and see if the tool is really helpful and is really doing the job. So that's what I would like to do, and not make the same mistake. Yeah, and these were basically the 4 mistakes I would like to share with you today. It would be really cool if you could share your biggest fails or your fails in testing with me, with the testing community, in the description below. Not in the description, but in the comment section. That would be really awesome to have an exchange on that topic. And if you like the video, leave me a thumbs up, leave a subscription to support me. And if you have any questions, also feel free to contact me via the community channel or via the comment section. Thank you, and bye bye.